So by now you may have seen the controversial article from Bloomberg that says this: success on YouTube still means a life of poverty, and that even if you have 1 million views, you still might not be able to pay your rent.
Is it true? Can you still make it on YouTube in 2018? We're gonna be sharing our thoughts on this article and 3 tips coming up.
Need help with the tech side of creating content? Our friends at Kingston Technology are posting new videos on YouTube regularly covering cameras, computers, and live streaming hacks. Personally, I love their photography tips series, not just for leveling up my Instagram game, but the tips also apply to making better videos. So if you want to check out that series and Kingston's channel, check out a link in the YouTube description below. Hey, what's up? Sean here.
Benji here.
And this is Video Influencers, helping you build your influence, income, and impact with online video.
On this channel, we have weekly tips videos as well as interviews with some of the top influencers on this platform. So if you're new here, consider subscribing.
So Chris Stokel wrote this article on Bloomberg, and if you want to check it out, we'll link to it in the description below, but we've highlighted a few quotes from it that we just want to talk about in this video.
First quote is, do your children dream of YouTube stardom? Do them a favor, crush that ambition now.
Whew,
wow.
Brutal.
Yeah, super brutal. And you know, I think it's very unfair to make a statement like that because of course a lot of people are thinking about the Logan Pauls, the Casey Neistats, the Superwoman, people that are mega stars, but evidence on this channel, YouTube is filled with so many different success stories at so many different levels. So again, this article is just focusing purely on that top few percent that get tons of views and not really putting into context all the different types of creators on this platform.
And we believe that you of course have to be practical, and that, you know, success on YouTube's not a guarantee, but to actually just say crush your children's ambition of making it on YouTube, man, there's a lot of places that are hard to make it. I don't know, it's a little extreme, but let's keep reading.
Next quote is, 96.5% of all of those trying to become YouTubers won't make enough money off of advertising to crack the US poverty line.
And you know, Benji, I agree with this, but again, it's the angle of the article that's a little bit on that negative, pessimistic side. Because on Video Influencers, we talk about this all the time. True, if you only rely on advertising, YouTube ads, you probably are doomed to a life of poverty. But that's why on our channel, we always talk about making money in other ways. And the cool thing is, the article does go on to talk about the demonetization policy, about how you need 4,000 hours of watch time, 1,000 subscribers, but nothing is holding anybody back from making money with affiliate marketing, from brand deals, from selling your own stuff, coaching, speaking, all these other ways. And we actually have a series out of lots of different ways to make money on YouTube. If you want to check that out, we'll link it up on the YouTube card and in the description below.
And when it comes to monetizing, we have a unique viewpoint on this because from the 100+ interviews, we've literally never met an influencer that literally relies on just AdSense. We're talking from 10 million to like 10,000 subscribers. And that's really important to keep in mind because again, this article is talking just about AdSense when literally that's like 10% or less of a lot of people's income because there's just so many better opportunities. Again, this doesn't highlight all those opportunities that people take advantage of, especially when they're just starting out on YouTube.
Okay, the third thing we want to highlight here is it says breaking through is harder than ever, and that the top 3% of the most viewed YouTube channels are drawing an increasing share of overall viewership, making it tougher for the masses. So when I question this here is, yeah, there's some data from this research, but what does the top 3% of channels mean? You know, YouTube recently announced that there's over 1.5 billion monthly logged in users. And if they're logged in, then that means they actually have a channel, right? They have a YouTube channel. So I'm not sure if they're counting that, but if it's 3% of 1.5 billion, that is a lot of YouTube channels that are still crushing it.
Specifically 45 million. But even at half or a quarter, that's still a lot of people on YouTube that's doing pretty well. Again, and that's only taking into account that 3%. I mean, that's the thing about YouTube. It's a massive platform. And what are these viewers doing? Are these viewers just, you know, watching videos and not really being active? Are they actually uploading videos, but maybe like more of a hobby or like a side passion? You know, that's the thing. We try to highlight highlight people that are really hustling and working it. And this is just taking everybody and putting it into one little bucket.
Totally. And again, as you mentioned, what are they actually doing? Do they have a strategy? Are they consistent? Have they persevered? Do they have a business model? YouTube's not a guaranteed place of success, but if you approach YouTube strategically with a niched focused channel with real intentionality, definitely most people don't. And so those numbers are a little bit skewed.
Next quote is Tom Burns, founder of Summer in the City, an annual British YouTube convention, said his cousin wanted to skip college to become a full-time YouTuber. I almost flipped out because I was like, no, that's the dumbest thing you can say, he said. You can't guarantee you'll be able to do it as a job. Now, what I'd say to that is you can't guarantee any success in any venture. And I'd argue that there's tons more of entrepreneurial ventures and businesses that you could start that would cost so much more that you wouldn't have any kind of guaranteed success. But on YouTube, you have the opportunity to at least start and have it be absolutely free to upload your first video.
Completely. You know, it's funny. You can't guarantee that this will be a job. What about college? Like, what about university? You know, there's plenty of people leaving college with $50,000, $100,000, $150,000 in debt. And this stat from Washington Post says that only 62% of US college graduates had a job that required their degree. So there's 40% that just missed out on all that money they spent. It also said that just 27% of college grads had a job that closely related to their major. So 3 out of 4 college grads are not even actually utilizing all of that, and they stacked up all that debt, man. Whereas on YouTube, you do need maybe a little bit of startup investment, but if you have a smartphone, if you have an internet connection, you can start posting and potentially generating income. Not to mention, Bloomberg themselves wrote a stat about small businesses that said 8 out of 10 entrepreneurs who start a business fail within the first 18 months, a whopping 80% crash and burn. So when we read this article, it's kind of like, oh, YouTube is this, you know, poverty is coming your way. It's just like these other things. It is similar to a lot of other things, but we actually think YouTube has a ton of advantages over some of these other pathways to success.
Also, you know, he mentions you can't guarantee you'll be able to do it as a job. See, that's the thing. I wouldn't think about YouTube as a job. Not only is it a passion, but it is a business, right? Like, you need to treat it like a business, and it's not like someone's just gonna give you a paycheck. I think that's probably one of the biggest things that stands out to me, because you have to be an entrepreneur. You have to think outside of the box, because you know what? The new digital age is forcing people to do that. And I think YouTube has so many resources, so many tools for you to be able to do that. And he's just, again, not highlighting that. And he's thinking it like a job, which is a first mistake.
Totally. And one of the things we want to encourage you guys in the influencers community is also, it's kind of weird to even think about YouTube as a job. In a lot of ways, YouTube is just a distribution platform. Like when we interviewed Andrew Edwards, he said, stop calling yourself a YouTuber. You're a content creator. You might be an entertainer. You might be a teacher. You're an educator. In a lot of ways, I'm not a YouTuber on Think Media TV. I am a online video educator that helps people learn about cameras and lighting. YouTube just happens to be the channel that I do that on, helping people find cameras, helping people find lighting. And so if you have some kind of other business model, which is what we recommend you build, then you would be outside of this kind of very narrow doom and gloom piece about using YouTube just as a job.
Next quote is, people trying to make it on YouTube have long complained the company protects a handful of stars, promoting them at the expense of the masses struggling to break out. Now, the first thing I'll tell you is this. I go to YouTube headquarters and I know that they want to create the best platform for everybody involved. Secondly, YouTube's free, so they don't owe anybody anything. You can upload videos for free. You have an archive library of videos, and they're the second most used search engine in the world. So what is there to really complain about?
Completely. And you know, complaining is really not a strategy. I mean, I guess you could complain all day long that YouTube's promoting their stars, and that is probably true because YouTube is a business. They're trying to make ad revenue. They're trying to promote the content that's going to generate views and give them more opportunity for ad revenue. But as we mentioned, it's a distribution platform. Like, you have this chance to leverage it to build your brand, build your influence, and build your income. And hey, even if it's hard, even if it's a little bit harder than it is for others, look at the bright side and the positive side rather than focusing on the negative.
Absolutely. The last thing I want to mention here is, it's proven that beyond the superstars, that YouTube is working for all kinds of people. Again, we'll go to our interviews, right? We try to interview people at all different subscriber levels doing different types of things, different type of business models. So I'd argue that, YouTube is one of the best places, if not the best place for building a digital presence. And it's obvious from the years of interviews that we have on this channel.
Okay, the next quote that we want to highlight is actually a story of someone they covered, and I think that maybe a lot of us can relate to this, and that's why we wanted to share it. So it talks about Asher, who's a 19-year-old computer student graduate at Grand Canyon University in Phoenix. It talks about how he spent $460 on his camera and his tripod for his YouTube channel, and he uploads every single day. So he's published more than 150 video diaries, vlogs that are essentially a catalog of his life at college, and brief updates on the things that he's done, his plans, what he's eaten, with his appearances from his roommates. And he said this: "I don't know where it's all gonna end up, but it would be cool if I could take the path others have and make it a job, but we'll have to see." And what's interesting is, again, I think the inclusion of this story kind of is building the bias of the article, focusing on people who just kind of want to do what maybe Jake and Logan Paul are doing. Daily vlogs, like you're gonna be interested in my daily plans, what I'm eating, all my own thoughts, and all these types of things. And we really believe that that is not the shortest path or the best way to have success on YouTube. The best way to have success on YouTube is a focused niche channel that adds value to a target audience. Build your influence that way first. It's a lot more practical, and then maybe later you start vlogging. And that's been the case of a lot of people we've interviewed, and even your own experience.
Yeah, just to be clear about vloggers, daily vloggers even, there was a lot of history before they became a vlogger. Casey Neistat, for example, he was always covering hot topics, right? Trendy videos before he ever decided to become a daily vlogger. He already had an audience. My wife, who made me into a daily vlogger, she was doing beauty videos. She was in that scene for a very long time, a very niche interest before she became a vlogger. But she already had an audience established, so they wanted to see like the behind the scenes, and that's ultimately what made me into a daily vlogger because of her. Jake and Logan Paul, they actually started out on YouTube, but where they built their influence was Vine. They were making Vine videos, and they had fans that migrated to YouTube when they became a daily vlogger. So that's really important to remember, because again, if you're just starting out like you, Asher, and you have no context, there's no relationship and no fans to watch you, it's gonna be an uphill battle to become a vlogger, and it's gonna be hard to convince people to watch your everyday life. The last thing I'll mention too is, in your comment it said, it'd be cool if I could take the path of others and make it into a job. Remember, you're not being hired by YouTube. There's no promise of pay just because you upload videos. You need views, and lots of views, right? Not just subscribers. You need like a huge volume, and you still need a hustle. We were talking about this at the beginning. You still need other business models. You need other income opportunities to make this into a full-time thing. And it's never really gonna be a job. It's gonna be a business.
All right, so based on this article, we've got 3 big tips and takeaways, but there's one more quote we wanted to touch, which is actually kind of a positive thing, bright spot right in the middle of this article, and actually says this. It says that there's good news for gamers, that gamers actually have a 14 times better chance than traditional vloggers. And so I find that interesting. Maybe you want to be a gamer. We know that's competitive as well, but dang, 14 times greater chance than vloggers? That's encouraging.
Yeah, and obviously this is something that a lot of people know. Gaming, video games is very popular, and that's why there's so much success, not just on YouTube, but other platforms. But something to consider, like as the world gets more connected and more users start watching YouTube, there's gonna be all types of niche types of content where creators are gonna be able to make a living based on larger audiences watching them. So I think this is just like foreshadowing what's to come.
All right, so really quick, what are the takeaways? What are some of our thoughts kind of summarizing up this article? Tip number 1 is perspective is everything. This article has a certain perspective, and to be honest, I think what it's speaking to, we agree with. We feel like this article is speaking to those who want to become super famous YouTubers. They want to imitate the Casey Neistat, the Superwomen, the Logan Paul, Jake Paul kind of model. And yeah, we think that pursuing that as an ambition is not going to be guaranteed for a lot of people. But again, perspective is everything. That's only looking at really like 3% of the the world of YouTube. There's so many people that are building businesses, building business models, niche channels, building communities. And here's the thing too, you don't have to go full time. There's plenty of people that are making an extra $10,000 a year, you know, an extra $30,000 a year to support their family and their dual income. There's a lot of different like long tail ways of having success on YouTube without just being a superstar.
And the reality is success isn't guaranteed anywhere, right? In school, in a job, you know, like people work their whole lives and get laid off at any time, you know, when the business is not doing well. In business as an entrepreneur, and we just listed off some stats. So keep that in mind. Like just because you do YouTube and put up videos, it doesn't mean that YouTube owes you any money, right? So again, this person that wrote this article is almost like saying, well, if you do this much work and put up these videos, you should get paid. Well, that's not a good way to look at life in general because nothing is guaranteed.
Absolutely. And the second big takeaway is create multiple streams of income. That's possibly the most important thing from this article because the focus was just on AdSense, that if you focus on AdSense alone, you're not going to make very much money. And we agree with that. That's why we always encourage you to build your income in multiple different ways because a lot of little streams of income can add up to a lot.
You know, as a vlogger, I can tell you after doing this for 10 years and having 10, 15 million views, AdSense is never a huge part of our income or business model. You know, it's really important to remember that all the ways you hustle beyond the AdSense is where you're gonna have the most opportunity.
And then our third biggest takeaway is focus on a niche channel that adds value to a specific target audience. You know, we really think that if you try to do YouTube full time as a vlogger, that's gonna be a slow road and you may never make it. But we've seen so many different channels that focus on sewing, gardening, you know, interior decorating, real estate, something specific. And even without a large audience, they're able to break through and make enough income to either be part-time or even go full-time a lot quicker in a much more practical way.
Yeah, there's a lot of discussion about the algorithm and the changes, but I can tell you this, YouTube is going more towards this suggested video model where they're going niche. They're suggesting the videos that you're really interested in. So the more niche your channel is, the better success you're gonna have if you're in your own lane. You're gonna have less competition, and YouTube actually wants to suggest your videos to the people that are interested in your type of content, specific topics. So we would suggest definitely, like we have for years, but more so than ever, niche it down to a specific type of content that sets your channel apart from other people.
Which brings us to the question of the day, and that is, we want to hear from you. What did you think about this article, whether you read it or whether from the quotes that we shared in this video? Definitely post that in the comments section below. And remember, some of the best tips and feedback come from you, the influencers community. So definitely connect with everybody in the comments section.
Thanks so much for watching. Subscribe and ring the bell if you're new here for more YouTube tech tips from our friends at Kingston. Click or tap the screen right here for more videos from video influencers. Click or tap the screen right here. As always, we're helping you build your influence, income, and impact with online video. Talk to you later.